name's Dave, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to something called the switch statement. The switch statement, right? So let's go ahead and go. I've got a format. I just named my switch statement. Name yours whatever you like. And let's go ahead and go to the toolbox. Let's drag a button. Let's get one button. We can just leave the default names for now. That's fine. And let's get a label. Look for a label. And where are you at, label? Well, you're here somewhere. There you go. I'm just going to left click and drag. Or actually, this time I'm just going to double click, right? So you can left click, drag, or double click. So I've got one button, one label. Same sort of thing we've done several times. And if you want to change, you want to go to the properties and make some changes, change the names and the text and colors and the fonts and all that good stuff. You can play around with that here. I recommend that you do that. But I'm going to keep rolling. I want to go. Let's go ahead and set up a click event for this button. Right, so I'm going to double click on that button, set up this click event. Right, and there you go. So I can toggle back and forth here on these tabs, or you can hit F7, go to the code behind, or right click view code, go to the code behind. So I'm just going to click here, go to the code behind. Okay, so let's look at an if statement. Let's go back. Let's revisit the if statements. Right. Assign this string. Again, if this code here doesn't make sense, please watch the video on if statements. That'll help clarify what's going on here. So let's go ahead and run this. And we're going to get the switch statements, I promise. Okay, so let's go ahead and click the button and please take an umbrella. Right. So I assign this variable. This only holds a string. This string raining. We've seen this several times now, and I'm checking to see if that is equal to this string. And by the way, there's another way we can do this. I'm going to throw this at you for free. Okay, equals. We're using this method called equals. Every string has this method called equals, which you can access through the dot, the access operator. And this is another way to do basically the same thing. This has a little more features to it, and it's actually a better way. I actually recommend using this way in practice. Don't want to get into why right now, but this way is fine. Most of the time this is fine. Also, so just going to show you two different ways to do pretty much the same thing. We're checking to see if what's in here, what's in that box, that variable is equal to this, right? So same thing here. Okay, so this is one way to do this, right? If, else if, and we could have several else if statements. We can check to see if it's sunny, right? We can check to see if it's foggy. We can check, whatever. So we can have if, else if statements, as many else if statements as we like. So that's one way to do it, but I want to show you another way, and perhaps a better way, and a way that I prefer with stuff like this. Instead of having several else if statements, we can use something called a switch statement. So the syntax is type in switch, SW, switch is selected. So tab, 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 right? And here, okay, so in the parentheses, this is a little different from what we've seen before. So we actually do not put a conditional test in here. We do not put a conditional test in here. We want to put whatever it is we're checking against, and we're going to be checking against this variable called weather. We name weather. We're going to be checking against that. That's what we put in the parentheses. This is not a conditional test. This is not a conditional test. So we'll see this in a minute. So case. Okay, so we're going to type in case. Case is basically it's basically saying in case this is equal to this, right? And here we need a colon, not a semicolon, a colon. And then here is our basically our code block. So this is a little different syntax. It's going to take some playing around with to get used to this. Label, and we're going to assign this label take an umbrella, right? So we're going to assign this text property on that label, this string, take an umbrella, in case this equals to in case they equal each other, right? So that's case one, right? And case cold, and I'm just going to copy this, paste it here. Where a coat, right? And we got to have this break statement, right? This break statement, which if you don't have the break statement, it basically falls through to the next case statement. But we don't want that. We want it to break out of the switch statement. So when it executes this, we want it to break out of the switch statement all the way out. Just like the while loop, you know, the break in the while loop, the for loop, if you remember that. We broke all the way out. That's what we want to do here. We want to break out. If we don't have this break statement, then it actually, even if it executes this, it'll still fall through to the next line. And there are rare occasions where you may want that. It could be useful. But vast majority of the time you want to break completely out of the switch statement. So if this executes, you want to break out of the switch statement. You don't want to fall through to the next case here, right? So I have two case statements. I'm going to copy this, and I'm just backspace now. So I want a new case statement, and we're going to put in sunny, and I'm going to put in go for a swim, right? And we'll use an exclamation mark. Go for a swim. And then the default, if none of these are true, if weather doesn't equal any of these, then the default will execute and it'll just break out, just totally break out. Or you could have some default code here if you need it. So if you needed if you wanted something to execute, if none of these were true, then you could put that here if you needed to. So basically, this says this is the whatever it is we want to check against, and we're saying in case this is equal to this, right? Then execute this code block. All right, this is a code block. There's no curly braces. But this is a code block, right? So, and I know that's maybe not crystal clear here, but just play around with it. The more you play around with it, the more comfortable you're going to become with it. But the switch statement says check this. This isn't a conditional test. This doesn't result in true or false. It says check this, and in case it's equal to this, then execute this, right? And the break statement says, break out of the, just kill the whole thing, kill it, right? So that's what the break statement does. So this code block will execute if this is equal to this, right? So let's go ahead and run this, and we see that it is equal to raining. So take an umbrella, right? So it executed this code, and it broke out, right? So let's do something a little bit different here. Let's move this down. Go back to the toolbox. We're going to get a combo box. I'm looking for a combo box, and I know it's here somewhere. Okay, take this combo box, right? And I'm just going to use the default names and all that. So combo box, just drag combo box onto the form. I'm going to use this smart tasks here. This little button. This gets like the most commonly used properties. You can also go to properties, but this is the most commonly used properties. I have this edit items, and I'm just going to type in the values. So sunny, raining, cold, right? Sunny, and sorry, they cut the grass. That's okay. Sunny, raining, cold. So I'm just typing in these three values. Alright, so, and okay, so I'm going to go back to my form. Okay, so instead of assigning it a literal string, we're going to assign it whatever's in that combo box. Okay, so chain game videos. Okay, so instead of assigning it a literal string, I'm going to assign it whatever's selected from that combo box, right? So I'm looking for a selected value. Selected value. This is the property I want. Gets or sets the value of the member property specified, right? So basically whatever's selected, it just gets the value of whatever is selected. And we actually have to convert it. We got to convert this to a string. This is a very common thing. We've done this a lot already. And this is actually an object. You see object there, that's the type. It's very general. If that makes no sense, don't worry about it. I promise you that a lot of the stuff will make sense when we get to object-oriented programming. I know I keep saying that, but there's too much to get into. So, so this is of object type, and we're converting it to a string so we can assign it to this string variable. And it's count time, so I will be back. Okay, hopefully they're finished cutting the grass. Okay, so got a correction. I put in selected value. I meant selected item. My bad. It should be selected items. Actually, let's do this again. Let's just kind of start over here. So combo box 1, that is our combo box, right? It's the name of it. Combo box 1, just using the default. You could rename it if you want. Using the default name, dot, and we want this selected item, not selected value, selected item, right? I was distracted by the lawnmower. Okay, selected item and toString. It's an of object type, whatever that means, right? We'll worry about that later. So we have to convert it to a string so we can assign it to this variable, this box that holds a string, right? So we get whatever selected, whatever it is, the selected item, convert it to a string, assign it to this variable, this box called weather, and then we use our switch statement, our switch. We could use if or a series of else if statements, but the switch gives us a little cleaner cleaner syntax, right? Just cleaner code, and I think it's easier to read. I prefer switch statements as opposed to a lot of else if statements, right? But largely it's a matter of preference. You may prefer if else statements to a switch statement, and that's fine. They both accomplish exactly the same thing. There's two different ways to do the same thing, right? So largely it's a matter of preference. But I do like the switch statements. So basically we're looking at this variable. So it basically says take a look at this, what's in this parentheses, right? Take a look at that, and in case it's equal to this, then execute what's in this code block, right? In case it's equal to this, then execute this. In case it's equal to this, execute that. Otherwise, if it doesn't equal to any of that, then we'll execute the default code block, which just has a break statement. We could have code in here if we wanted. It just has a break statement, right? So let's take a look at this. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay, so I'm going to select one. We'll select sunny, and there we go. Go for a swim. Raining. Take an umbrella. Cold. Wear a coat, right? So there you go. Okay, so one of the nifty things about switch statements is you can use them with enums. That's kind of cool. So let's take a look at an example here. And let's go ahead and comment this out as well. So let's go down. Okay, so we're going to use that day of week enum. So all right, try that again. Okay, so switch is already selected there. I can see it's selected. So tab, and it's going to set up a stub switch statement. So I'm going to type in my enum. Day of the week, it's selected. You see the little icon there for the enum. and it's highlighted in yellow. This enum. This is it is an enum, right? And so I've got it highlighted. So I'm gonna hit enter, and I'm gonna hit enter again. Hit enter again, and there we go. So then it fills in. It fills in these case statements here, right? And now I can just go back and add the code. So label 1 dot text, and today is Friday, right? And so again, I switch SW, whenever you see switch highlighted, tab, and then type in the enum here, and then after you do that, hit enter, and it'll fill in, give you a stud for these case statements, right? So I'm gonna just copy this, copy, paste, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. Same thing here, and I'm just going to copy the word here, Monday. Okay, so I have these statements. I have a statement for each case statement, right? For each case, and note the red squiggly here because I have the type here, as it needs to be a variable, or I could just use it like this, right? Or I could use let's do that. Let's do a variable. So it's of type, day of the week, right? So I'll just name this day. Day of the week, dot, and then we'll put in whatever value. So now I will use the variable, right? So we can use this, or we can use the variable, either way. Okay, so now I have this variable, this box that holds this, right? This of day of week type, right? So it's going to check that enum and check to see in case it's equal to this, then execute this. If it's equal to this, execute this, etc. Right now it's equal to Saturday, has the Saturday, so it should print that to this, or assign this text string, or this string to this text property, right? So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. And there we go. Today is Saturday, so it executed this. It checked this enum, and in case it was equal to this, execute this. It just went down the line. It was not equal to Friday. Monday, it was equal to Saturday, right? Because that's what we assigned to it. And so this was true. This is true. This condition, basically, this conditional test is true. This is equal to this, right? So it executed this, which just assigns this text string to that text property, right? So we'll go ahead and stop the program. Okay, so let's go back. This time we're going to use our combo box, right? So we use our combo box again. So I'm going to click on the combo box and click on this called Smart Task. This little arrow here. You could also go to Properties and Items here. This is another way to do it. And actually, we'll do it this way this time. You could click here, and the Smart Task gives you the most commonly used properties for the control. You only see this on controls with a lot of properties. So most controls, like the button doesn't have one, label doesn't have one. So these are for controls that have a lot of properties. And the Smart Task gives you the most common ones, right? So it's just one of those convenience that Visual Studio gives you. Let's go ahead and select the combo box. This time let's go to the properties. We'll access it through the properties this time. The items. Property. This is a collection of items. The collection of items. And more than one item, right? The collection of items. So click on this button with the ellipse. And let's go ahead and delete these old items. Let's get rid of those. And this time we'll type in days of the week, right? Days of the week. Okay, so I have the days of the week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, so let's click OK. And let's go ahead and execute this. Run this. And just to look at the drop down, so we can see Sunday, Monday. So we have these values in our combo box, and now we can select these days of the week. Alright, so let's go ahead and exit that. Okay, so this time the idea is that we will select the day of the week here, and we'll use the switch statement to check to see what the day of the week is, and we'll print out, today is Sunday. If you select Sunday, then this should say today is Sunday, right? So that's the idea. That's what we're going for. Okay, so I know just from playing around with this Enum, day of the week, that when they set this Enum up, and actually let's do this. I'm going to get outside of the class. This is the closing class curly bracket. Closing class curly bracket. Right here, the closing class curly bracket. And this is the closing curly bracket for the namespace, right? So I'm going to get in between these two. And let's go ahead and create an Enum. And I'm going to call this my day of week, right? So there's no conflict. And okay, Sunday, and this is basically how theirs were. And the day of the week that we're using is Microsoft. This is the .NET. It's in the .NET framework. So I didn't write that. I didn't write this one. But I want to show you how it was done. Just like this, basically. And just Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, etc. So just do ... there, so it just continues on. Basically, they use the default values here. The default starts at 0, so this gets assigned a value of 0, right? This gets assigned actually, so the red squiggly won't be distracting there. So we can just assume that carries on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, so Sunday by default got assigned this integer of 0. So then by default, the Monday got assigned this integer of 1. And then by default, this Tuesday got assigned this integer of 2, right? 0, 1, 2. Wednesday is 3, Thursday is 4, Friday is 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the default. So the default starts at 0. They could have started this at 1 or they could have picked any integer, but they just use the default. And this is what happens when you don't put anything in here. When you don't assign it a number, then by default this gets 0, 1, 2, right? So that's 0, 1, 2. And these are not really index numbers. They're not index numbers. So I don't want you to get confused with this isn't a collection. This is a group of constants. And there's a difference. These are integer values, the 0 that have been assigned. They've been assigned to these constants. These Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. These are constant names. These are names, right? It's a named constant. They're named. This is the name, right? The value that's in it is what these integers, right? That's what. So it's not index number. It's not a collection. And these aren't index numbers as a way for C# to keep up with what's what in the collection. Group of boxes with index numbers. That's not really what's going on here. This is a group of constants, and each one of these constants is assigned an integer value, right? And by default, the first one is assigned the value of 0. So it's exactly the same as that. Exactly the same. This is default. So you don't have to type that in, right? You don't have to type that in. It's a default. So if the first one starts at 0, then the next one's going to be 1, the next one's going to be 2, the next one's going to be 3, etc. So it just increments one number, right? And if you start at, say we start at 5, then this is going to be assigned 6, 7, etc. Right? So I happen to know that just from playing around with it, that Microsoft just did it like this. Or whoever, some geek at Microsoft, whoever wrote this, just did it like this. So the Sunday is assigned the integer 0, Monday is assigned the integer 1, Tuesday assigned the integer 2, etc. So we can use that. We can use that to our advantage. And what we can do is cast an integer to a day of week type. So here we have a collection of this is quite a bit. There's a lot going on with this, but so it may just take playing around with it. But this is a collection. This combo box holds a collection. Now this does use index numbers. This is a collection, like an array, like a list, right? These are collections, and the collections, C# uses index numbers to keep up with what's in the collection. So here we are talking about index numbers, right? With enums, we're talking about integer values that are assigned to the constants, right? But here we're talking about index numbers. So Sunday, this is the first one on the list. This has an index number of 0, right? And then Monday has an index number of 1, 2, 3. So this happens to correspond with our enum, right? It just happens to correspond with our enum, right? And I figured this out just by playing around with it. Playing around with the enum, finding out what the integer values were. So I know Sunday, the enum Sunday has a value of 0 assigned to it. And this is a collection. It's the first item in this collection, so it has the index number of 0. So keep that in mind. These two things correspond, right? So just keep that in mind, right? Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take that index number, which is an integer, right? And remember, we can convert integers to the enum type and vice versa. We can convert the enum type to integers. Here we want to convert the integer, the index number, to, actually I want to keep this, to, well, let's just start over. Okay, we need the parentheses. We need the parentheses because we're casting. So we're going to cast that integer, that index number, which is an integer. We're going to cast it to this day of week type, right? And we're going to get it from the combo box. And this time we're going to use selected index. Selected index gets or sets the index specifying the currently selected item. So if Sunday is collected, what did I just say? Okay. If Sunday is selected, not collected, I'm getting selected and collected mixed up. Okay, if Sunday is selected in that collection, right, then we know Sunday has the index value of 0, right? So we're going to take that 0, which is an integer, right, and cast it to a day of a week, right? And if we do that, we know then the day is going to be Sunday, right? So let's go ahead and run this. I know this might be a little confusing. It may take a minute to play around with this, but just keep playing with it. Okay, so let's go ahead and select Sunday. So we know Sunday, this is a collection. This combo box holds a Sunday. So I know that Sunday has an index value of 0. How do I know this? Because this is a collection, and this is the first item in the collection, right? And with any collection, C# is using index numbers to keep up with the collection. Monday is going to, what index number you think that's going to have? It's going to have a 1, right? Tuesday has a 2, Wednesday a 3, etc. So let's just select Sunday. We know this has an index value of 0, right? Has an index value of 0. So we're taking that 0, right, which is going to be here. We're getting the selected index number, whatever it happens to be, 0, 1, 2, whatever it is. In this case, it's going to be 0, right? And we're casting it to a day of a week enum, right? So we're casting it to the enum. So now, basically, we're turning that 0 into this, right? We're turning that 0 into this, and we're assigning it to this variable which holds a day of week type, right? And now we're using that in our switch statement, right? So hopefully that's not clear as mud. Okay, let's go ahead and execute this, and we see today is Sunday, which is not true. Today is actually Monday. Okay, so let's select Monday. Today is Monday. Select Friday. Today is Friday, right, etc. So it's taking the index numbers here. Friday, the index number for Friday is 5, right? it's the 6th item in our collection here. So it has the index number is 5, and if that's not clear, please review the videos on arrays and list, right? Arrays and lists. Please review those videos if this isn't clear, because this whatever's in this combo box, these items, that is a collection, just like an array or a list. It may not be an array or list. It may be some other type. There are different types of collections, but it's basically the same. They all have index numbers. The first item is index 0. The second item is index 2, right, or index 1, right? So so Friday is the 6th element. It's the 6th element. So it has an index of 5, right? 0 starts at 0 base, right? So Friday has index of 5. So we're taking whatever the index number is here. We're getting the index number, selected index number of that combo box. We're taking that index number, that integer, casting it to a day of a week enum, right? And that cast it to, or changes it to whatever this is. Like for Monday, if the index is 1, then it's going to cast it to this, right? So okay, so let's put in a breaking point. Go to stop this. So let's put in a breaking point. Let's put a breaking point right here, and we'll go ahead and run this again. So let's step through it this time. So let's pick Friday, right? Okay, it should be okay. So it's 5. The selected index is 5, right? It's the 6th item in that collection, right? So it has the 5th index number 5. Again, if that's not clear, please review the videos on arrays and lists. Okay, so it has this index number 5, and we're going to cast it to a day of a week, right? And we know in this enum, the constant Friday has a value of 5, right? They correspond. So we can convert that integer of 5 to a day of a week enum, which is basically this, right? So we're taking that number 5 and converting it to this, right? So we're dropping that in this box, right? And that's the old value. So let's go ahead and execute that. So now it has Friday, right? Now it has the current value, Friday. So now we're dropping in this box that holds a day of week type, right? And now we're checking against that variable. We're checking against it. In case this is equal to this, in case this is equal to this, then execute this. In case this is equal to this, execute this, right? In case this is equal, etc. So in this case, it is equal. That's Friday. It is equal to this. So it's going to execute this, right? This is these are equal now. So it's going to execute this code. This assigns that string to that text property, and this breaks out of the switch statement, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of the breaking point. Just going to run it one more time. Okay, Friday, and we can see today as Friday has been assigned to that text property. So if this isn't clear, please type it in, play around with it, and just the more you play around with it, the more comfortable with it you're going to become. So this is an introduction to switch statements. You could, like I said, you could just use if, else if statements. Same. This is just another way to do the same thing. And switch statements, you can use them with any type, string, integer, any type. But you can also use them with enums, and they're very useful, very nifty when you have enums to check against. So that's it for switch statements, and I'll see you in the next video.